Don't appreciate all that extra.
Yeah, very nice of you.
Yes, I know. But Lauren is the one who has to go through and listen to everything. Not that the listening is the hard part, more the writing it all down. Just wanted to clarify.
Well, I've got
Are we
6.
time? Okay, cool. All right, I think we'll go ahead and get started.
All right.
As long as
Okay.
all right.
Okay, we're going to call this to order, and before we do anything else, we've got some special information regarding our proceedings, given what's going on. Let me just read through this, if you will. Thank you for being present for our quasi-judicial public hearing this evening. Due to the pandemic, we will conduct the meeting with modifications to promote social distancing and keep everyone safe. We ask that you cooperate with the modifications for the safety of all. You'll notice that board members are spaced greater than we have previously been spaced. Audience members shall be spaced adequately, and you've already figured out that the green tape is where you're supposed to be. Okay. If you are providing testimony this evening, rather than swearing in up at the front like we normally do, you're going to be sworn in at your seat. We'll get to that. Please stand and affirm the oath from your location. For those that are sworn in, we need to have your name and address if this information has not already been submitted to us. If you need to sign in tonight, please use your own pen. If you have one, if you don't, we'll use disposable tissues when handling a pen and sign the sheet here. Okay. When presenting your testimony, please note that audience members shall use the microphone located at the podium. There is a freestanding microphone, but that's going to be for staff use, is my understanding.
Yeah, wait, I think we switched.
Or you may
Apologize, we switched it around after writing this.
have we?
Sometimes being in person, you realize things need to operate a little differently.
So, all right, so that one will not apply. Okay, that's the script for our special proceedings, and we will start in then with our regular agenda, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. All right. On our first item are the minutes from the March 10th meeting. Does anyone have any revisions or corrections for those minutes? No. If not, then I'll take a motion to approve them as presented.
Make a motion.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor of approving those minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, minutes are approved. Okay, now, I believe we've got some informational items to...
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So what, board members, you'll find at your seats is a written copy of the Rules of Procedure. It is a 2-page front and back. It does have color on it. So I'm presenting this to you tonight in writing because the current Rules of Procedure state that the rules can only be amended provided that such amendment be presented in writing prior to the meeting at which a vote is taken. We need to amend the Rules of Procedure because of state law changes. Therefore, I provided some suggested written amendments to the board's Rules of Procedure. Again, this is just to provide to you in writing beforehand and will be for your review prior to your next meeting, at which time you can discuss and vote on the amendment. Again, this is just to provide it to you in writing per your Rules of Procedure, and no action is needed at this time. Thank you. And back to the regular agenda item. or regular agenda rather. I'll be presenting item 1 to you this evening. Variance request number 20VAR01. The subject property is located here.
Sarah, before we do that, you get started, there was a few little preliminaries I wanted to make sure
Okay.
before we start, if you just bear with me.
Sure.
Tell me again, have you already sworn in everyone?
No, thank you. We need to swear, and I think we probably got a little off track with
Okay.
the
Why don't we
social distancing script.
Get that out of the way then.
Yes.
Okay. All right, well then, who's planning to speak to us tonight? Okay, just you? Okay. I think we said we would swear them in place.
Correct, and we have another script for that.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for keeping us
Okay.
on track.
yeah. All right, then, if you can hear me, I'm going to ask you, do you swear that the testimony you will be given to the Board of Adjustment shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, all right. Now, we already have her name and,
Correct.
okay, so you've got that. All right, okay, very good. Okay, all right, just a little housekeeping detail. And also before we start, I take it you're going to speak to because you are the applicant.
I'm actually not the applicant. I am an attorney and friend to the applicant.
Okay, so you're representing the applicant.
Yes.
Thank you, okay. And so I take it that means we do not have anyone who would be considered an opponent of the variance here. There's no one, okay,
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. We have not received any indication in writing or,
okay. Well, that helps me because, when we're in the process, I'm supposed to give them, so, okay. Want to make sure I'm staying on track. Thank you. Okay. Okay, among the board members, this thing that we always talk about before we get started, I just want to make sure, has anyone had any prior communication with anybody about this case ahead of time? Haven't discussed it with anybody? Okay, that sort of thing. Okay, that whole, we've talked about that. Okay, and then, does anyone have, as far as you know, any kind of relationship or financial conflict that would, affect your impartiality in this case? No, nobody. Okay, didn't think so. So everyone believes they can be impartial. Okay. Next, let me ask you: has anyone taken time to go and observe the particular property, the site that we're going to be considering tonight?
Yes.
You have?
Yes.
Nobody else has? Well, so that we have the benefit of all the same information, tell us anything that you noticed that you made an impression on you, or you think maybe we ought to also know when we're considering this.
Right. So the property that we're talking about right now, that we're discussing, it's in a subdivision. There's two homes on either side, and it's placed such that it's actually setback-wise, it's relatively in between the two, where when you're driving up, the first property that you see is actually set closer to the street, and then this property, and then the next property is set back a little bit more than that. There's a variance sign in the front yard. If memory serves, there's a fence. I didn't get out of the car. My son is learning how to drive, so I did not exit the vehicle. So, but that is what I noticed just by driving up to the site.
Okay. Well, thank you, because we all want to have the same information to decide this. I appreciate you bringing us up to date. Okay. I think I have made it through all those details I wanted to cover. So, Sarah, let's get back to you, Sarah. You were about to start the presentation by the staff regarding the case. So let's turn it over to you now. Thank you.
Thank you. And also keeping with procedure, I am Sarah Van Every, Senior Planner with the Town of Apex. I've been here for almost 3 years, and I have my AICP certification and have been in the planning profession for over 15 years. I will now present to you the variance case 20 VAR01 located at 308 Cabana Drive. And the subject property is located here in this general vicinity, one of the very edges of Apex. The current zoning for the property is high-density single-family conditional use, case 11 TRZ08. And again, this here is the subject property in reference. This is an existing single-family residential structure sitting on 0.17 acre, happens to be lot number 191 on the east side of Cabana Drive here in the Sunset Hills Phase 3 Section 1 subdivision. The structure we'll be talking about here was constructed in 2002. The property is zoned high-density residential single-family. The front and rear setbacks are 15 feet and the side setbacks are 8 feet per UDO requirements. The subject property is surrounded by neighboring single-family residences along Cabana Drive and within the Sunset Hills subdivision Phase 3 Section 1. The applicant is you have several attachments also included in your staff report. We'll go over those. We're also going to, again, go over a little bit of the background and what the applicant is requesting a variance from is Section 5.1, Table of Intensity and Dimensional Standards, and Section 5.11, Residential Districts, to allow the existing residential structure to remain on the lot as is. Specifically, the applicant are requesting a variance of 1.6 feet to the side setback of Section 5.11 to accommodate the existing residential dwelling that is 6.4 feet from the side property line. Sections 5.1 and 5.11 of the Unified Development Ordinance read, Section 5.1, Table of Intensity and Dimensional Standards. All primary and accessory structures shall be subject to the intensity and dimensional standards set forth in the following tables. These intensity and dimensional standards may be further limited or modified by other applicable sections of the ordinance. Additional regulations are set forth immediately following the tables. Rules of measurement and exceptions are set forth in Section 5.2 Dimensional Standards and may be found for certain uses in Section 4.4 Supplemental Standards. And there is a excerpt of Section 5.1, that table of intensity. And you can see there for single family, about halfway through that chart, does provide you with what those setback requirements are. Wanted to provide that for you before we head to the background of the site. So January 20th, 1999, the property was sold to D.R. Horton Incorporated. October 3rd, 2000, final subdivision plat was recorded, and that is what we see here. You have a crisper copy in your packet as well. And we're looking, this one, I think, right, 191? So that is the lot in question. This is the plat. What is down here, again, this was recorded October 3rd, 2000. August 22nd, 2002, permit was issued for a utility line to the property. November 26, 2002, building permit and certificate of occupancy issued. December 2nd, 2002, property sold. July 29th, 2014, property sold again. July 1st, 2016, property sold. March 29th, 2018, March 29th, 2018, applicant purchased property as is. July 8th, 2018, the applicant conducted a survey, and this is that survey that was conducted in July 2018, also a crisper copy in your staff report, and it was this survey being conducted that the error in the setback was discovered. Included in your staff report, you have your standards for variance requests. One, that it is an unnecessary hardship. 2, hardships resulting from peculiar conditions, 3, not the result of action by the applicant, and 4, consistency with the UDO. Staff's analysis is that DER Horton Incorporated purchased the property for Sunset Hills Phase 3, Section 1 subdivision, January 20th, 1999. The final subdivision plat for Sunset Hills Phase 3, Section 1 was recorded on October 3rd, 2000. The existing structure on the existing lot, 191, has remained since original construction for a residential permit that was issued November 26, 2002. Since then, the property has exchanged ownership multiple times with the non-conforming structure in its current place. The applicant is the fourth owner of the existing structure on the existing lot. The applicants unknowingly purchased property with an existing nonconformity to the side setback regulations on March 29, 2018. After purchasing the property, a survey was completed July 8, 2018, and thereupon the error discovered. The applicant filed the variance petition in an effort to remedy the nonconformity and prepare the property for immediate future sale. Planning staff recommendations on quasi-judicial matters are not disclosed in the staff report before you, and rather not until the evidentiary hearing before the Board of Adjustment. After reviewing the application and the series of events, staff recommends approval of the variance. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have of me. As you know, the applicant is here should you have any questions for them as well.
Okay. All right, well, while you're still here, who's got a question for Sarah? Anybody? Well, I'm just curious on this sequence of events. I mean, this is interesting in that this property is turned over so many times. You would have imagined that every time the property turned over, somebody surveyed it. And there's got to be a lot of really bad surveys out there. And it's finally called on the fourth try. I mean, it's, I don't know, I've never seen anything quite like this. This seems unusual to me. Okay, but that is definitely the history of it then.
Correct.
Okay, all right, so.
Is the property surveyed, though, every time the house is sold?
Typically, whenever you, property transfers, there's typically, you know, you would think, but not every time. Okay, we'll get you to comment on that, but I'm thinking if I was going to purchase property, I would insist on having, maybe some people don't insist on that, and, okay.
I think that that's a correct assumption.
Okay, well, gosh, that's just,
Yeah.
okay. All right, well, let's see, while Sarah's here, would you like to is there a question from the applicant, any sort of cross-examination, anything to ask her while she's still here that you need to ask?
I don't, the one thing I wanted to confirm, which is why I asked for the packet, is, and I'm not sure it's all that significant, but when she purchased the property, I believe you said 2018. Is that correct, March 2018? Okay, then, okay, just making sure my memory serves me right.
Okay.
I don't believe so.
Okay, so nothing from her testimony then. Okay, very good. Okay, well then, all right then, you said you're the attorney for the applicant?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well then we would enjoy hearing from you. Thank you.
Sarah, you
Yeah, sure. And then just let me know what slides you need.
the survey's great.
Okay.
All right. So admittedly, this is my first variance hearing, so I apologize if I don't abide by any formalities. I'm not typically a courtroom attorney. I am a real estate attorney, so I do closings. And just quickly to address your question about or your comment about the survey, we strongly encourage surveys for this very reason. But unfortunately, most buyers do not elect to have one because they're expensive. And they're already looking for ways to reduce their closing costs. So that's just as to your comment about the survey. But essentially, we're here just to ask for the variance for 1.6 feet, if we were to require Chelsea the homeowner to correct the encroachment, it would be a financial hardship, regardless of how we correct it. Obviously, don't really want to pick up the structure and move it, but as far as really the only feasible option other than getting a variance is to have a recombination of the properties done. So essentially what that would entail is the property owner for lot 190 next door would have to be willing to cooperate, and their lender, if their property is mortgaged, would also have to be willing to cooperate, because we would want to make sure that there were no title issues that carried over for this property or the neighboring property. And the process, it takes several months minimum, and it is very costly, several $1,000s. I have done them before, and they are a royal pain. So we are trying to avoid that hardship. We do believe that that if you were to allow this to remain, that it would be consistent with the ordinance. We understand that density is a concern, and we feel that if you look at the survey, Sarah, the survey shows you that there's actually 8.5 feet on the left side of the property. There's an average of, I believe it's 6.2 to 6.5 feet along the right-hand side. So cumulatively, we're only within those setbacks by about a foot, but also something to keep in mind is the neighboring structure. The homeowner actually measured the distance with a tape measure between the structures of the homes, and that exceeds 16 feet. I think it was approximately 17 feet. So there is, as far as how close the structures are to each other relative to density, we feel that there's really not, we feel that it's compliant when you look at the totality of the circumstances. But obviously for the individual lot, it's not. So we feel that it's consistent. It was not anything created by the homeowner. The structure has remained unchanged for the entire, 2002 to 18 years. This structure was permitted and approved. The certificate of occupancy issued based on where it currently is. I also feel that to force compliance would result in negligible, if any, benefit to the public, given that we feel that when you look at the totality of the circumstances, that it's consistent, that you still have that distance between each structure. Yes. And that's really, I believe, all that I had. Let me just make sure, looking over my notes. I think I addressed everything. So, yes, we're just asking for forgiveness for somebody else's mistake.
Well, let me tell you, you did well. You touched on a whole lot of the factors that we have to consider. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay, well, that's good. But while we got you here,
Yes.
this is the time. Anybody got another question we'd like to ask right now? Think we've heard the story? Okay, and okay. Well, let me make sure that we don't have any opponents. So normally this is the time we would ask them to make their case, but there's no one to make that case. I take it there's nothing that's been said by either side between the staff that needs to be rebutted. Has anyone heard anything that they take issue with and want to correct? Okay, we don't need to do that. Okay, just making sure okay, all right, and we would give you a chance to make any closing arguments, but I guess you've said pretty much anything? Okay. All right. Well, then, if there's no more questions here, then I'm getting ready to close the hearing, and then we will move on to our deliberation of the case. Is anyone satisfied then that we'll move on? Okay, all right, well then I'm closing the public hearing at this point. Thank you very much for all the good information that you've shared with us here. Very good.
Thank you for your time, I appreciate it.
Okay, all right. Okay. All right, I think what we usually do is try to discuss those factors, those standards for the variance request, and we need to try to, if we can, come up with findings, reasons to hold the standard to be met or not met. I mean, that's really what we're talking about here. And if we can, we've got our staff here trying desperately to translate whatever we're saying into findings of fact, so we need to be as helpful for their sake as we can. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's talk about, if we can, does anyone want to talk about how you feel about the potential for an unnecessary hardship here? Do you think that the applicant here has met the test and made a case for an unnecessary hardship, or maybe not? Does anyone want to bring that one up and say anything about that?
I mean, it seems the property's changed hands enough times in 18 years that, a foot and a half is not,
Yeah.
to me, the cost to correct the problem is not,
Yeah.
does not outweigh the what you're losing by leaving it the way it is. So
Okay.
no.
I guess we would feel differently if there wasn't a structure there. If someone came here and said, oh, I want to suddenly build one and encroach on the setback, we'd say, oh, no, but it's there. And so when you start talking about how to remedy that hardship, it's hard for me to imagine that we would insist that they remove part of the house, that's encroaching, that seems. And I think what you said about trying to move the lot line is, very complicated thing to do.
Not my favorite thing to do.
Yeah, so, okay, so then perhaps we'll agree that it isn't unnecessary because the remedies for fixing the hardship are so extreme that the hardships does seem unnecessary. So, now, I think you may have already hit on this one. The second one we need to talk about is whether the hardship results from peculiar conditions. And you were talking about the history of the property. I don't know, were you suggesting that that's somewhat peculiar?
No, I don't think there's anything peculiar about it. I think the fact that, it's a product of the builder putting the house in the wrong spot or whatever reason resulted from it being where it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't think it's peculiar, but I don't feel like it's at fault of the current property owner.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to that. Anyone want to talk about that? Anything you see? Again, peculiar covers a whole wide range of things, but I guess maybe you're right that it's probably talking more so about the specific location. They just didn't get it right. Okay. Is there any amount of agreement about the hardship not being an action of the applicant? In terms of who caused this, how this happened. They bought it like this. I think we clearly said that, so can't, okay. The last one about consistency with the UDO, spirit, purpose, intent of the ordinance, substantial justice. I think the thing that I heard that we were talking about, that given that it's there, what is it that we want to achieve with setbacks? And that's a certain amount of spacing between the structures. What we've ended up with, what we've described it as being close to the proper spacing. Is everybody heard that, I guess, about if you start adding up the 8 feet and the 6 feet and all seems like, if you looked at it, if you didn't know where the property line was, you would probably believe these houses were adequately spaced. Anyway, just the line is not in the right place. So in terms of doing, holding up a public purpose and justice here, okay. Okay, well, seems like we've covered all of those pretty well here. Is everyone feeling okay about making a decision now that we've discussed those? Okay. Anyone want to offer up a motion to either approve or deny this variance?
Motion to approve.
Okay, got a motion here to approve. Is there a second?
A second.
Second, okay, motion. Before we, any more discussion about approving it? Anyone want to say anything else? And if you certainly disagree, this is definitely the time to speak up, okay? All right, well, if I'm not hearing any discussion, then all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and I'm not hearing anyone opposed, so I'm believing that our motion has passed unanimously and we have met the threshold for granting this variance. Okay. All right, well, that wasn't too tough, was it? Okay. Thanks for bearing with us. Okay, let me get back to the agenda. All right. It's only 6:30.
Correct.
Is there anything sacred about our advertised 7 p.m. time?
Yes, we have advertised the meeting at 4:07, and therefore we do need to start that meeting at 7.
Okay.
I believe that we could
Okay.
take a break, we could, I guess, call a recess, take a break.
So we
can stop
declare
recording.
a recess at the time, and then at 7, take up item number 2, and then I take it, then what's going to happen is our motion is going to be in order to affect our postponement. That's
We will talk about item number 2 at 7 o'clock. It
okay,
is
so we'll
correct.
see if we get there then. Okay, well then I'm going to declare our meeting in recess and urge everyone to be right back if you're at your seat by 7 o'clock. So.
Yes, and I believe, I'll go ahead and ask Mike, does the YouTube continue to stream while the meeting is recessed?
I can pause it.
We can, okay. Wanted to make sure we got that squared away as well.
Make a motion to go in recess.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we need to, what do they, I'm trying to think of what we do at I believe at council there's a motion as well.
Do they
Yeah,
make-
let's make a motion
to
to keep everything.
declare a recess?
Yes,
Okay.
and then you can set a time for it to come back at
All right.
5 till or something.
Someone please then make a motion based on what I just said about being recessed till 7 o'clock. Okay, let's do that, all right? Who's making that motion?
Sure, I will.
Oh, you got it, and there's a second?
Second.
Okay, very good, then, the motion is to be in recess until 7 o'clock. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, we are in recess.
Do you remember the Wake County luncheon, real property luncheon?
Thank you, sir.
You look
The
familiar.
what? Go to the what? now?
Do you know the Wake County real property luncheon? I've been emailing you.
And we'll have to remember to do the button again, the recording button. Okay. You've already put Brian on duty?
Yeah, you read it, yeah. Press it twice.
I was just looking at the artsy picture here that we're looking at of the town hall with the flower and all. Now that is now a historic picture.
Yeah.
Good
point.
That, you won't be seeing that anymore.
No. Yeah, my office is on the opposite end of the building, so like basically, yeah, I could
Next
look.
to that, then, all that, yeah.
Yep, and look down and see what was the courtyard.
Well, it's interesting, the timing of it. because as noisy as it can be when they're really at it, but so many people are not here to be disturbed, so anyway.
What are they building, or what are they doing construction-wise?
That's
over
the
there?
senior center. Is it
Ah.
time?
All right.
Okay, all right,
By my phone here. Okay.
all
All
right.
right.
And then we're back, we're live as well.
We will be back into session, and on our printed agenda, we are at item 2, the appeal request, and I believe that Sarah has information for us regarding this item.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Regarding item number 2, appeal request 20 APP 01 at 2850 Milano Avenue, appeal to section 4.321 government service. On behalf of the request and at the request of the applicant, the quasi-judicial public hearing for this item is to be continued to the July 20th at 6 p.m. This will be a special called meeting for the Board of Adjustment. Again, that is Monday, July 20th at 6 p.m. per the request of the applicant to continue this item. Correct, July 20th at 6 p.m.
Okay.
And has it, pardon me, so the board will make a motion to, this has been the request of the applicant, and then it'll be before the board to approve that request, and then there will be notification on the website as well as downstairs. Thank you. You're welcome, thank you.
Okay, well, even though we already have this thing, so I take it that it would be in order for us to make a motion to continue this item until our next special meeting on July 20th at 6 p.m. So can I hear a motion to continue?
Could we ask a question first?
Yes.
Was there a reason given for the request to continue?
It's at the request of the applicant. I'm not sure what, we haven't really been given more than, I'm not sure what's appropriate for the record.
Motion to continue? Motion. Over here, okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, well then, all in favor of continuing this item until July 20th at 6 p.m., please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? I guess not. I think I heard that to be unanimous.
Correct.
Okay, I believe there is no other business before us. Was there any other information that you thought you needed to share with us?
No, I do not have any other information at this time. Your packet of information for the appeal case would be the same. Yep.
So hold on to what we have.
Correct. And then there'll be, obviously, you will get an updated packet. There'll be an agenda. All the regular stuff that you would get, the findings of fact from the first case, minutes, et cetera. Everything else will be the same for July with the continuance of this item.
So then, well, then at that July meeting, did you just say, maybe you just said that we will approve our findings of fact from tonight?
For the variance case.
For the variance case.
For the variance
Well, what
case.
we did tonight, we're going to finalize that also at the July meeting.
You will have, you'll have your, I haven't completed the agenda yet, but basically you'll have potential amendment to the rules of procedure.
Okay.
You'll have meeting minutes to approve. You'll have finding of facts, conclusions of law from the variance request, and then there will be the quasi-judicial public hearing for the appeal case continued from tonight until next month.
Okay, so all of that.
Should be it.
All of that on July 2nd. Okay.
July 20th.
Excuse me, July 20th. Thank you. Okay.
Yep, and that is a Monday.
It's
So-
a Monday, okay, not our normal Tuesday, it's a Monday.
Correct. It is a Monday. There's council that Tuesday, so that is Monday, July 20th at 6 p.m.
Okay.
Same place.
All right, well then, before we adjourn, is there anything any member of the board wanted to bring up or speak to before we adjourn? Or everyone's okay? Okay, well, Well, then, I think I've been declaring it, but since maybe motions would be better, so let's have a motion to adjourn.
The motion?
Motion to adjourn, second.
Second.
Got a second? Okay. All right, when all in favor of adjourning, please say aye. Aye. Okay, okay. Okay, I'm going to stop being an autocrat, and
Yeah,
we're going to have motions, yeah.
And Brian, I'll see if I can't find out an answer.
I was just curious, it's not
Okay.
critical.
Where did I
It-
miss that we were continuing?
Attempt for resolution.
Was it in the
Just seems
packet
like
we were gonna continue?
Pretty hot and bothered about
Or was it
getting it.
announced?
Mike, are we
It's
off?
just that piece of paper, Lena.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, this,
Yeah.
this
okay.
one.
yeah, that's,
Is there any